Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, friends and foes. I'm codpyry and you're not, as in good, as in bad. Welcome to my video series called League of Legends and Culture, an English assignment for school where I'll be covering the subject from multiple standpoints and possibly even teaching some of you about League of Legends as a game and culture as a concept. In this episode, I'll compare the modern-day society infrastructures to League of Legends roles. Let's get started. Let me start off by briefly going through each role in League. First off, we have the top laner. This is usually played with a champion that has good mixture of physical damage and health, which will enable them to dive in the middle of the action and still dish out some damage. The reason they need a bit of health to do this is the fact that they are mostly melee champions, meaning they must be at point-blank range to do anything to their target. Next up, we have the mid laner. This is usually a champion with very little health, but to compensate for this, they have abilities that are capable of dealing significant magic damage. Many mid laners also have mobility and/or crowd control capacities within their abilities. Now, let's move on to the bottom lane, which consists of two roles, the ADC and the support. Let's cover the attack, damage, carry first. This is usually a very squishy and fragile champion with little to no escaping mechanisms or survivability. The only strengths they have are that once they manage to get a few items, their auto attacks will start to deal massive physical damage, and they are usually ranged, so they can attack enemies even when they are at a relatively safe distance. Because of their weakness in the early game, they will need someone called a support to act as their bodyguard for at least the first 10 minutes of the game. That brings us to the support. This is the type of champion that has something they can use to protect or help their own ADC, or something they can use to harass the enemy ADC, preferably both. Helping one's own ADC can be achieved through heals, shields, and temporary buffs or helpful auras, while the harassing can be done with debuffs, damage, and crowd control. Also worth noting, the support will, in the majority of cases, be more or less the team's bitch. If some dangerous place needs to be warded, it's usually the support's job. If someone needs to buy an aura item that'll help the whole team, it's usually the support's job. Sometimes, a support will even have to sacrifice their own life, either to save their AD carry's life, or to make sure they get a kill. On the screen you can see me give an example of the latter. Last but not least, we have the jungler. The jungler usually has at least few of these attributes: sustainability, damage, be it either physical, magical, or both, mobility, and crowd control. The more, the merrier. The jungler is a bit different from other roles in one way. He doesn't have a lane. What he does to gain golden experience instead is killing the neutral monster camps located in the jungle. Another thing the jungler does whenever he has a good opportunity is something called ganking. This means sneaking up to a lane from the jungle in the hopes of killing the enemy champion or champions found in the lane, in order to help the friendly player or players get ahead in that lane. Now that we've covered each role, let's see how these roles compare to modern societies. Now, as I expect you all know, tens of thousands of years ago, back before agriculture was invented, people didn't really have much choice of what they wanted to be when they grow up. The men were hunters, the women were somewhere between a berry picker and a nanny. This isn't a very effective way to manage a tribe, a family, or a LoL team, because if every person in LoL just picked some kind of champion and ran around the map like a headless chicken, the results would be ugly and the team would never really accomplish much. jump back to modern societies and the current way of people playing League. Everyone knows their role and does it the best they can, which results in everything running smoothly and everyone being happy. The farmers farm land and the cattle owners grow their cattle while fishermen are out fishing. They make it possible for people to eat. Then there are tailors and dressmakers who make it possible for people to wear clothes. Then there are carpenters, construction workers and cement truck drivers who make it possible for people to live in their houses, electricians, plumbers and decorators who make living more comfortable, and the musicians, comedians and YouTube video makers who make the people enjoy themselves. All this is looked over by politicians, the police and different managers just to make sure everything goes according to plans and everyone does their part. Thanks for watching, and do join me in the next episode where I'll be covering the lores of League of Legends.